This week, a lot of the NASCAR news outside of Talladega has really been about the questionability of Kyle Busch returning to Joe Gibbs Racing. I personally think that a lot of people are overreacting, even given Kyle Busch's unsure responses over the weekend, but I'm going to go off the assumption he's probably going to be back at JGR after 2023, even at the age of, 37? He still has a lot of good years left. So today I want to look at 10 sponsors that I think can replace M&M's for Kyle Busch, or maybe whoever else replaces him. Starting off, you got to go with the sponsor that is already there, Interstate Batteries. Of course, with it being already on the 18 car, they're probably going to sign on for a couple of races, but who knows? They might be able to up their sponsorship, kind of like how they had for a long time before Kyle Busch went to JGR in 2008. They've been the longest lasting JGR sponsor, and it would be pretty fitting to see Kyle Busch end his career in the classic green, black, and red colors that were made famous by guys like Dale Jarrett and Bobby Labonte. Also, you have to look at another Toyota sponsor in Rheem. Rheem has been all over the place. They've sponsored Kevin Harvick, they've sponsored other JGR cars, they've sponsored RCR cars, they've been everywhere. So I don't think it's out of the question to see Rheem maybe up some of its sponsorship with the 18, especially if you can see a lot of maybe the 20 car sponsorship going more to DeWalt, or vice versa, maybe we'll talk about that in a minute, compared to the way it is now. I could see Rheem jumping on for a couple races with the 18, as they've really been the plug-and-play sponsor for a lot of the old Xfinity cars. So Rheem, another one I think could be very realistic. Another red and white clad car that Kyle Busch could have is the Sports Clip car. Sports Clips has been a long-standing NASCAR sponsor. Back in the day, they were sponsoring JGR a lot, and they've really upped their game a lot when it comes to Denny Hamlin in the last couple years. Hamlin being the main driver they've sponsored since the late 2000s, early 2010s, and they've jumped on for a couple races each year. With the fact that Denny seems to be branching out with different sponsors, it might open the door for some of those sponsored races for the 11 to more or less jump over to the 18 car. Again, I don't think that Kyle Busch is going to get a full year-round sponsorship the way M&M's is right now, so a lot of these could all work together as plug-and-play sponsors, and Sports Clips really seems to have that branding down with NASCAR. Another one that I'm going to say is going to stay in the JGR tree and probably going to at least have a few sponsored races for the 18 is Stanley DeWalt. Stanley DeWalt has been with JGR for a little bit, and they've been with the 20 car for the most part, sponsoring guys like Matt Kenseth, Eric Jones, and Christopher Bell. And while they are pretty loyal to that 20 car, you could probably see them wanting to get back onto a winning driver's car. With no disrespect to Jones or Bell, they're just not at the caliber of guys like Matt Kenseth and, of course, the subject of today's video, Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch has had Stanley DeWalt on a couple of cars in the past couple years, mostly as one-offs in the Phoenix race, but it seems like they're more open to spreading their reach in NASCAR and JGR, and with Kyle Busch probably having about 30 races or so to film, maybe 28, this is one that I could see jumping on for maybe a 4 to 8 race deal. Another JGR sponsor I'm going to bring up here is Bass Pro Shops. Listen, there's a real possibility that Martin Truex Jr. and Denny Hamlin retire, leaving 2 open spots more or less for Joe Gibbs Racing. And while it might just be one of them retiring, the spots might be filled by Ty Gibbs, who will bring their own sponsorship. And if it is Martin Truex Jr. retiring, well, I don't see Bass Pro Shops sticking with Ty Gibbs, at least at the start. I see them maybe going over to a more long-standing driver like a Kyle Busch. Yes, I know they sponsor guys like Austin Dillon with RCR, but they are known to spread their sponsorship dollars to different teams, manufacturers, whoever else. My next one's a wild card, and that is Menards. Yes, Menards right now sponsors both Austin Cindric and Ryan Blaney on Team Penske, which in a lot of ways has really become sort of a foe for JGR, especially as both have become ultra competitive in the last decade. But I will also say this: Menards sponsors everyone. If the Menards family wants to sponsor someone, they're going to. They seem to have an endless money pit that they just continue to throw at NASCAR, IndyCar, everyone in motorsports that they can think of, and I don't see why they wouldn't jump on with Kyle Busch, seeing the potential branding they could have of a driver who honestly is probably the most popular driver they would ever have long term in that yellow Cup Menards car. Busch has been in a lot of Menards commercials this year, more than pretty much any driver in the last 10 years or so, with the exception of Paul Menard. And it seems like it would be pretty fitting to have one of the biggest NASCAR sponsors on arguably the biggest NASCAR driver of the last couple years when it comes to popularity. Another one that I could see is OfferPad. OfferPad has sponsored Hamlin in the past, and they currently sponsor Dirty Mo. And they've really increased their NASCAR presence, honestly, since about the start of the pandemic. Seeing how they're sort of the sponsor that they put in place at JGR when Hamlin doesn't have sponsored races, I could see something similar happening with Kyle Busch if he gets a big sponsor like Menards with Interstate Batteries, and then they just sort of put OfferPad in where a Stanley or Sports Clips wouldn't go in. It's something that I could see being another filler one. One that I could see being a full season sponsor in a lot of ways is Monster Energy. They have a big connection with JGR through Ty Gibbs, so I think this one's a lesser chanced one compared to the others, but at the same time, Ty Gibbs might not be ready for Cup, and if Kyle's brother Kurt with 2311, which is a Toyota team, retires, well, they might jump on for a year or two, or they might just sponsor multiple cars the way they do in the Xfinity Series. Another energy drink could be Kyle's, Rowdy Energy. Kyle could sponsor himself in a way, the same way that Hendrick sponsors Kyle Larson. It could cover empty races similar to what I was saying before, but Hendrick sponsors Kyle Larson with HendrickCars.com. But it's not necessarily Rick Hendrick reaching into his pocket and throwing money. And that could be kind of similar with Kyle Busch more or less being sponsored by his wife, as she is the one who runs a lot of the business aspects of Rowdy Energy. It'd be another way as well to get that energy drink out there, as it is one of the fastest growing brands in supermarkets across America. Now, the last one is one I've seen a lot of on YouTube, Twitter, and everywhere. And while I don't see any connection at the moment, I do see good reasoning behind it, and that is Hersheys, and probably more or less with Reese's. You see, this would easily fill the M&M's Mars void of having a major candy brand in NASCAR. This is something that NASCAR, I think, would really push for, as having candy and having a candy car is something that draws children directly to one specific driver and gets them latched on quickly. I don't know how many kids I've met or seen or heard of who have started watching NASCAR and root for Kyle Busch because at the time they were 6 or 7, jumped in and saw the colorful M&M's car. While there won't be an M&M's car, there might be a Hersheys Reese's car or whatever other brands Hersheys would want to put forward to have that colorful candy car that kids could jump at. They've upped their NASCAR engagement the last couple of years and sports engagement in general, and you've seen it at a lot of billboards at NASCAR tracks, as well as commercials on virtually every single race this season. So this is one that, while there's no news about it at the moment, would be very real. That's what I'm going to leave to you to answer. What do you think is going to happen with Kyle Busch's future, sponsorship, or ride in general? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to my channel for more great NASCAR content. To all my channel members, especially all of you who have jumped on recently, thank you so much for your added support. It means a ton. And until next time, have a good one.